Hey up, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Yorkshire Gamers Eat Big War Games podcast. And this is our sort of side podcast, if you like, with a podcast within a podcast. This is Brews in the Binyard, my twice yearly chat with the wonderful Sean Clark from God's Own Scale and Alex Sutherland from Storm of Steel. And this is our summer special. So we'll be looking forward to that and the chat in a couple of minutes. If you are after some serious wargaming discussion and whether it's better to use an early Crusader army or a later Byzantine army in your next competition, this may be the wrong podcast. That's all I'm going to say. So before we get down to the interview, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. And I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with the legend that is Henry Hyde on his Battle Games podcast last night. It was, and great chat with Henry, real fun. Really enjoyed it, and he's going to have that out in the next few days for his Patreons. So if you're not already, support our Henry with price of a cup of coffee every month to keep the lights on down there at the Loftwaffe. So look forward to that. And in terms of Yorkshire Gamer, if you want to keep up to date with the things that I'm doing in the hobby, then I can point you towards the YouTube channel, the Yorkshire Gamer YouTube channel, and on there I do a monthly update which covers all the things that I've painted and bought, a little bit of hobby chat, etc. And lots of people enjoy that, so that's a good place to catch up with all things Yorkshire Gamer. And to add to the media empire, I've started a Facebook group. Yorkshire Gamers are a Reet Big War Games group, and I've already got a Facebook page, but it's something that other people couldn't post to. So if you're into big wargaming or you're just into wargaming in general and want to join in, please join the Facebook group. Just search for Yarkshire with an A and you will find it. There's three questions to answer at the start of your process, and one is obviously what is your favourite podcast, which just goes without saying, obviously, and God's Own Scale, and then Bradford City or Leeds United. Well, you all know the answer to that question. And then finally, my favourite interview question of all time, which is, if you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be and why? So I look forward to seeing your answers on there. We're up to 109 members already after only a week, and some great posts coming on there already. So please come down and join us. So, just before we put the episode on, this is Brews in the Binyard, and it's quite freeform, and we go off on all sorts of tangents. A little bit of a warning: there's a bit of mild swearing in there, nothing over the top or anything like that. But this is more of a adult episode, if you like. And once again, as with the previous episode, we chatted for nearly 4 hours. So I've broken it down into two parts. And during the breakdown, we had some technical issues, and there's some quite funny bits in between, things going wrong and us starting recording officially. So I've left those in. I find them funny. Hopefully you do as well. So there we go. Without further ado, here's an interview.
We're back in our little brick area amongst the waste to chat all things wargaming. We've got a full house tonight, so let me introduce the act you've known for all these years. It's Yorkshire Gamers' Lonely Wargames Band. Over by the discarded used nappies from number 17, slightly obscured by the swarm of flies, is the one and only High Priest of the Broad Church of Wargaming. The man with the ear of the big guy when it comes to the best scale. My guest has been giving it big whilst going small. You know him as the host of the long-running, award-nominated podcast God's Own Scale. but we know him as the person with the worst score ever on the Yorkshire Gamer quiz. Apart from that, he's a good lad. In fact, if he was from Yorkshire, he'd be perfect. Welcome, Sean Clark of God's Own Scale.
I don't quite know how to react to that. I was hoping you were going to clean up a bit, to be honest, because it's a right mess in this Binyard. I'm used to finer things over this side of the Pennines.
Well, you've got flies and dirty nappies today. So let's have a look and see what our other guest has got on his side of the Binyard. So over at number 23, they've had their bathroom suite replaced, and there's an old avocado-coloured toilet in the Binyard. And my next guest is perched on his throne with his own chain of command. He is the king of YouTubes, disguising the smells of the surrounding bins with his newly released Storm of Steel aftershave, Hendo's Poor Hom. My guest has recently discovered that Lardy O Group isn't his long-lost Irish relatives, but is in fact his new favourite set of rules. He continues to churn out quality videos week after week on his award-winning channel, and it's the best thing to come out of Rotherham since the road to Bradford. Everyone, welcome our favourite YouTuber, Alex from Storm of Steel. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much, Ken. What an introduction. Again, I'm lost for words, literally lost for words. How do you follow something like that up? How
have you just ad-libbed that?
No. It's gone away to a co-writer, and
I'm surprised. I didn't know you could read.
I've got Hollywood. Well, I can't.
All right.
I can't. I have somebody to type it out for me, and there's somebody like signing it to me in the corner, and I'm just talking. None of this is me. I've got a clue what I'm doing. Anyway, so finally, if you're here for the other guys, and you've accidentally stumbled on this podcast whilst looking for the Batley District Amateur Catholic Canal Widening Club's Summer Jamboree Report, my name's Ken, and I am the Yorkshire Gamer. Since we last spoke, there's a space next to the dictionary I won for my school woodwork prize in 1982 for my Little Caesars TV award. There's still a space. It hasn't arrived. So, before we go anywhere, we need to mourn a sad loss for the wargaming hobby. And I want you to put your best solemn faces on here, because we've seen one of the true heroes of our hobby pass away. Mr. Bob Point.
I thought for a second.
Do you know? I thought you were serious for a moment. Then
Yeah,
I thought you were serious. I did. So I thought if I missed something.
yeah.
So, Alex, sorry, not Alex. Sean, tell us what happened, mate. What happened to Bob?
Well, he was getting on a bit. Bob was born at a very young age, and and I think he'd outstayed his welcome. To be honest, he's a bit of a womanizer.
Oh,
he likes a bit of the pop, and I think things just caught up with him. To be honest,
that's
or somebody's husband caught up with him.
Well, rest
That's
in peace, Bob.
shame.
Rest in peace.
Rest in
Real
peace.
shame. Rest in peace. My YouTube analytics say that my audience is 100% male, and that nobody under the age of 35 listens.
Mine's about the same as well, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So when I say ladies and gentlemen on this podcast, I am actually lying, because it's just blokes listed.
Blokes of a certain age, and also, so that really ties into that point, doesn't it, that Little Wars brought up probably last year or the year before now about the grain of the hobby. My analytics say exactly the same on God's Own Scale, and Alex, I think you've just confirmed there.
Yeah, same as.
Have you not got like an Alex Southern ladies fan club?
Not looking like this, I don't know.
I was the number one member.
Yeah, Sean's the only member.
I mean,
he throws his knickers at me every time I see him.
See, I only got into this
Calm down,
podcasting
Sean.
thing for the birds. I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
It was just, old blokes talking about toy soldiers. It's pretty crap, isn't it? Crap, isn't it? So, for the uninitiated, then Bob Point was your nom de plume, Sean.
It was my nom de plume for a long time, by mistake, really. It was a bit of a nickname from a very old role playing game that I played back in the 80s, Call of Cthulhu. And I had a character called Bob, who had been captured by. Do you want to hear this? Well, you get He'd been captured by some cultists who got
some what?
Cultists with a T,
and an L,
who got a lair beneath Buckingham Palace, and they lowered me into a vat of acid in their lair, and the Grand Master of this lodge or cultists basically said to me, "What is your boiling point, Bob?" I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not a scientist, but ever since then, I was called Boiling Point Bob by the group, and then it sort of transferred into Bob. It's a very boring story. Do you want to move on?
Do you know what? I thought he was a Civil War general, an American Civil War general. Yeah, because like the Little Wars guys, when they're on Facebook, most of them are. I'll not reveal their other names if they don't want me to, but there's a couple of them who are Civil War generals on Facebook, and I thought yours was as well. I never bothered looking it up to affirm it. So that's just
you couldn't be arsed, could you?
Yeah, I couldn't be arsed.
That's an interesting one though, because I only relatively recently found out about the Little Wars guys on Facebook, and I won't reveal the names, but I kind of wish I'd kept Bob Point going now, because I'd have been in with the cool kids of Little Wars TV. Instead, now I'm.
Are these like ghost accounts that they slag everyone else off on?
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically,
yeah. It's a torrent of filth, in fact.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't been banned off Facebook. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, Craig. And Tom, both of you.
That's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. So we shall try and put some semblance of order into the podcast during the course of the evening. But
why break the habit of a lifetime?
Exactly. As this is the fourth episode of Brews in the Binyard, Sean did. We split the first one in half, didn't we?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was trying to work out the numbers then.
Yeah, because you two were talking and everything.
That's coming on a podcast and talking.
What's that about?
I never catch on.
2 hours of silence. That's what I like when I listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Awkward silence as well, not just silence. Awkward silence.
Try and keep them down to 30 minutes. And it never happens.
We're already 50 minutes into it now.
I know. Well, it feels like it anyway. Because I think we did nearly 4 hours last time. And
4 hours of my life I'm never getting back.
Yeah, the last one I did with Steve and Martin from PCP, that was another 4 hour special. Very interesting, very good fun that one. We shall chat about your respective channels and podcasts, etc., etc. So, Alex, you are in the middle of an 8,000 sub giveaway.
Yes.
What are you giving away? And is it true that it is a free Henderson's Relish for a year?
It is if you win, Ken.
Okay, excellent.
But everybody else will get something different.
Something useful.
Yes. I just checked my stats before I came on here, and I'm 16 off 8,000 subscribers.
Wow. Wow.
So tomorrow's my birthday, and I'm hoping that I'll hit it tomorrow. Ooh. Just for my birthday. That would be nice. The rate it's going, I think it'll probably be Friday. But yeah, I've got a competition going. I usually do it when I get to a nice big round number. I did it for 5,000. I'm doing it now for 8,000. I was going to do it for 7,500, but I think I was away somewhere, so I missed it. It's just a good. Basically, go over to the channel. By the time this comes out, it's probably going to be too late though.
I'm hoping if it's relatively clean, that I can get it out on Friday.
Okay, well, they may have missed it by the time it comes out. Even then, I don't know. I'm hoping that they've missed it, should I say? But yeah, basically, I've got a load of Storm of Steel dice that I got printed. So they've got Storm of Steel on the 6 and Storm of Steel logo, and I'm also giving away a cup as well, a mug with Storm of Steel logo on it. So whoever wins, basically all you have to do is just go onto the video, just say something, share the video somewhere, and I'll put you into a prize draw and pull the name out. And then, as I say, fingers crossed this weekend I'll be able to have to announce it. I mean, if this does go out on Friday and people are listening, then check it out. If I've hit 8,000 by that point, I'll stop the thing, but I might not have anyway, so do check it out.
Excellent. Have you got Yorkshire Gamer or God's Own Scale on the one?
I wish you thought of it now, don't you? You can see.
I wish I had now, yeah. God's Own Scale's on the 1 and Yorkshire Gamer's on the 2. That's only because I'm on your podcast, Ken.
That's fair enough.
Because Sean won't have me back on his podcast, so that's why you score higher.
I've never had Ken on.
Because I'll just talk about big figures and stuff.
It intimidates me.
Talking of which, somebody contacted me.
Talking about size.
Yeah, somebody contacted me, and they were going to make a figure, a Yorkshire Gamer figure. So, as a reporter for a range, and I went back to them and suggested that they did 3 figures, 1 for each of us, and I've never heard from them since.
Put them right off. You killed that.
I'm not doing them 2 as well.
They could have done me in 6 mil, Alex in 15, and you in 28.
Yeah, that'd have been perfect.
That'd have been brilliant. If there's any sculptors out there interested, get in touch with Ken at yorkshiregamer.com.
Yeah. Well, Alex is the one with the shop. He's the one with the media empire.
Oh, that's right.
I don't think it's a media empire.
Storm of Steel miniatures.
I was just thinking then, Alex, I was just thinking then back to when you did come on the podcast, that you were talking about a friend of yours that had set up a YouTube channel and thought by this time next year I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yeah, 3-year millionaire.
And I can't remember how many subscriptions you had at that point, but I do like to think I've contributed in some small way to the success of.
I'm fairly sure if I tracked it back, I think I probably had about 200 subscribers at that point.
And look where you are now, mate.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got to be. If I look at it, you'll just see a line going straight up after that appearance. After that was, literally a vertical line from that point up. Yeah, definitely.
I think we should be like one of those rock bands that share the revenue equally, regardless of who writes all the songs.
Yeah. I'm happy to have my 5p royalties from my advertising. Yeah, you're more than welcome to it.
Yeah, and I monetize my YouTube because they do it anyway, don't they?
Yeah,
they put chat. So I thought, right, well, I may as well have the money. It's typical Yorkshire, and you don't get a lot, do you?
Not really. It kind of depends where you put the adverts.
Put the flag.
Without me going on too. Yeah, I can see the Yorkshire flag. Without going on too much about adverts on YouTube, but yeah, if you put them in the middle of the video, you get more pay per click than you do at the beginning or the end.
Oh right, yeah.
So you can make them skippable or non-skippable. You can put banners up and things.
Who would watch it at the end?
Exactly. By that time, most people are turned off anyway, so you just don't get much money from.
I think with this one, most people have gone, so we could talk about anything now, can't we?
Alex, just as a point of interest, this is a bit spooky, but your episode on God's Own Scale released 2 years ago this very day.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
13th of July 2020.
Blimey.
886 downloads. So there you go.
Nice.
Of your subscribers, I think every one of those will have subscribed after listening to God's Own
Absolutely,
Scale.
100%. Yeah.
So that check for 12 pence can come my way.
I'll write it down now.
Yeah.
What's happening in the world of God's Own Scale then, Sean? We had a flurry of activity.
A flurry of
And then now-
activity. Yeah.
Well,
So
you were putting them out that quick at one point. I missed two. It's like,
I got three
Don't
out
worry,
very
Ken,
quickly.
I haven't listened to any of them since mine.
None of them worth listening to, mate, to be honest. God's Own Scale, yes. So there was a flurry of activity in what was to be the build-up towards the Joy of Six, which was going to be this sort of culmination of a lot of effort and work and putting a game on the Saturday before the Joy of Six and having some content or creating some content at the show, and there was lots of plans and ideas. And then two things happened. One, some circumstances at work changed, which meant I was very highly likely to have to work on this Saturday before the Joy of Six, which is when we were supposed to have this.
For that, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if it's a good thing or a curse, but yeah, but less said about that. But let's just say my circumstances at work have changed, and the game that should have been the Clash of Titans, which was you two against two guys from Little Wars TV, wasn't going to happen. And then, in any case, I caught COVID, as did the whole family. So for the last week and a half, the house has been riddled with the dreaded COVID-19, and it's rather dried up production and all that content that I was hoping to create.
It's probably not much help, Sean, but everybody I did talk to at Joy of Six said that you were absolutely missed and you should have been there. So, unfortunately, you couldn't make it, but you were.
Do you know what this is going to sound a bit odd, but I think there's at least 3 videos that have gone up. Your video of the day, Big Lee. His video of the day, and the Little Wars TV video. I can't watch any of them yet. It hurts that much that I wasn't there. I can't watch any of it. Because I put such a lot of effort into sorting that game out for us on the Saturday. And then I've been looking forward, because ever since God's Own Scale's been around, there's been no Joy 6. Because of the pandemic. So it was going to be the first live Joy of 6 where I was going to be able to go. Anyway, yes, so just a little bit of a hiatus on the podcast at the moment, just whilst I try and regroup and gather my thoughts and think about where to go with it. But do little bits of hobby in the background, and 15 mil's the new 6 mil, apparently.
Oh,
good.
Very good.
Painting,
Very good.
Painting quite a bit of 15 mil. Mexican Revolution with
Of course.
those two famous generals.
Coming up soon, we've got me and Alex are going down the pub, and Sean's going to talk to you for an hour about the Mexican Revolution. So look forward to that, listeners.
Well, I tell you what, I could open your eyes. I can open your eyes.
Put timestamping, Ken, so people can skip forward
to the world of those two famous generals that I can never remember.
You did remember the second one after about an hour.
I think it was about 3 months, wasn't it, late? Emiliano Zapata and Pancho Villa. There you go.
I'm sure I've seen a couple of articles in the magazines about the Mexican Revolution since.
Well, there's been a rule set published through, I think it's through Partisan Press, La Cucaracha.
All right.
But I've got the Peter Pig set fighting for Mexico and the Peter Pig figures, so painting those up.
Is the Peter Pig one? Is it on a grid or is it one of the non-gridded ones?
No, it's a grid. Every game they do at the moment's grid based, so it's it's a good game. It's got trains, it's got cavalry charges, it's got he's released a very nice range of Mexican style buildings for it. It's a massive range actually in 15 mil. Really comprehensive, including the Americans as well. So
one of those wars I've never really paid attention to.
Mate, I knew nothing about it until Peter Pig started developing the rules. Well, I can tell you it lasted for 10 years.
Good. That's more fact than we had last time.
There was loads of battles and everyone died. So
excellent.
What more do you want?
Is that the Alamo? Is that part of that?
Get out of town. The Alamo. I know you're more worldly wise than that, Kenneth.
I don't know anything, mate. I don't know anything. I just make it all up as I go along. Right.
It's not from Yorkshire, it's shite.
Yeah, exactly. Mexico.
Is it Yorkshire Revolution? No.
Is that near Barnsley? Because if it isn't, it can do one.
Mexico is a nightclub we used to have in Rotherham in the 80s.
Oh. They used to, Mexican restaurants were quite big for a while, weren't they?
They still are. We've got one in my local town.
Yeah, they still are.
Very nice. That might be called a cucaracha, actually. Is that the only Mexican Spanish word that people know, I wonder? I don't know what it means. I sang the song at school.
It means the
cockroach. Do you remember the song?
Did you go to school in Mexico?
It means cockroach.
Cockroach, there you go.
How many times
now, oddly, a family friend of ours was illegally crossed the border from Mexico into, or tried to illegally cross the border from Mexico into the States and got locked up in a Mexican jail for 5 weeks.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah.
Was that just to save money, or were they carrying something in a Kinder Egg somewhere?
No, it's to do with some Egyptian silk that was being transported. And that's not a euphemism.
Is it not? Ladies and gentlemen, put what you think Egyptian silk is in the comment section.
Welcome to Yorkshire's Premier Wargaming Podcast.
Excellence in podcasting since 2020.
Yeah, there's one thing this show
is anything but wargaming.
There's one thing that this show does do. It just goes off everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people actually tune in for. They don't give a monkeys about the actual wargaming. I mean, we got on to, what did we get on to last time? Jazz as background music for wargaming videos. Where did that come from?
I'm very into period Mexican music at the moment. Just as the background for my painting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you find this, whether I know some people like listening to rock or whatever, but whatever period I'm painting, I like to have some music on in the background that is relevant to that period. And there's some very good, if you put into YouTube, period Mexican music or traditional Mexican music.
Right.
Open your eyes, that would.
It probably would. Right. Alex, what's happening with Storm of Steel? Quick.
Still making videos, Ken. There you go.
Yeah, you were. There was some semblance of organisation last time I looked. You were like planning stuff out and being organised and stuff.
Yeah. The thing is, I've got a load of videos backed up. You see, because I usually make a couple of videos back to back, so I've got quite a lot of them, and I try to release one video a week at least. Like this week ends up being about 5 because lots of things happened, but I've ended up with like battle reports, that I filmed back in February, and I've kind of just got them. They just sat there on YouTube, just waiting to be released. So what I thought I'd do is, I'm kind of trying to drive my Patreon a little bit more, and I thought to give people something to look forward to, I'll do a schedule each month of what's coming, so that everyone knows what to expect. Because otherwise, it felt a little bit like it was like a scattergun approach, where I was just chucking videos out, and nobody had no idea what it was. And then Friday I'd just put a video out. It could be anything. Whereas I'm just going to try to make it a little bit more scheduled. And for people who are Patreons, they can get the ad-free and early access, and they'll get that on a Monday, and then the video will go out on a Friday for the public. So that's a little bit of a bonus, because I've been trying to work out what to do for Patreons, because I always feel it's a little bit. I think you've said it before in the past, haven't you, Sean? There's a little bit of pressure when people are kind of paying you a bit for a service. You feel like you have to provide a service and you have to do something different. But then Henry Hyde said that it's not really about that. He said they're just paying you for you because they like you. And you kind of, I think I fall somewhere between the two stools, really. But I felt like I should do something. I should just make it a little bit more, a little bit more almost grown up. And I saw that a couple of other channels were doing it. I know the Plastic Crack podcast, they'd got like a schedule of who was coming on. The guys from Modelling for Advantage, they'd done the same. Because they were doing live streams and stuff, and they were saying when they were doing them and things. And I just thought, oh, okay, that's quite a good idea, because at least you can look down it and go, right, okay, on that date there'll be a video out that I'm interested in or something.
Does it restrict you? Does it restrict you then to that schedule, or are you just going to drop a bomb halfway through and go, "Here's my review of the latest, what they call the new contrast paints."
The contrast paints.
See,
paints.
I know what's happening in the hobby. I know.
This is a new section. No, because like today, was it today? Today, oh yes, today. Yeah, it must have been today. I put out a video for the new war bases. Excuse me, printed bases that they've got coming out. And they only sent me those on Monday, so I did a quick review of them because they said they're releasing them this Friday, and they said they wanted a review to be tied in with the release. So I said, all right, I'll do a review for you, and I put that out. And that. So I'm still doing bonus videos. I'm still doing live streams, trying to do those as much as possible on a Tuesday night. I'm still doing the hobby updates on a Sunday, just of like, a week and things. And as I say, this week has been a bit crazy. It was going to be the 2D6 Wargaming review, because Robert over at...
Have you got them effing emu things?
Yes, he gave me a box of the emu stuff.
I'm shaking my head. I know it's an audio podcast, but you can hear me shaking my head. Are they 6 mil? 6 mil emus?
Yeah. They look great, actually.
I've had to talk about Turnip 28 with Steve for an episode, and I've got bloody 6 mil emus. It's supposed to be a serious 28 mil big game podcast.
It's a historical period, the Emu Wars is. It's not just something he's made up.
Yeah. It's a real war.
You're pulling my legs, lads. You really emus with helmets and machine guns running around.
Well, no,
Australia killing people. I don't notice that.
I thought you were a serious historian, Ken. I thought you'd know about the Emu Wars. It's a thing.
There's a bloke round the corner. Who's got what they called llamas. And
there's some up in North Yorkshire as well. Well, in Cumbria.
Everyone looks at him like he's like, "What are you doing?" We've got sheep and cows. What?
Yeah.
Have the sheep and the cows been listening to some romantic music and coming up with an in-between breed or something?
I see where you're going with that, yeah. I've seen all creatures
Upstairs for thinking. Yeah. So that's what's happening then, Alex?
So basically, yes, I'm just trying to make things a little bit more organised. Give it a couple of months and it'll just collapse.
On that point, Alex, I think it's a good direction to go. And I think, being serious for a moment, it almost professionalises the process in the fact that you're going to have this planned schedule. And you're right, I feel very much the same when I'm coming up with podcast ideas, that it's a real scattergun approach, and that I've got people, a list of people that I want to speak to. It just depends who's available. So sometimes it can be I've sort of two people releasing Kickstarters back to back, and it's not ideal.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think having this sort of, or at least an attempt at some sort of schedule, just gives the viewer that confidence in what's coming, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of it, really. I just thought, because you can pick and choose what you want to watch, or
Yeah.
you're not just waiting for a video and it's not kind of blocking up
Yeah.
your viewing time or whatever if you're not interested in it. You know what I mean? Or and also, it makes people look forward to something as well. It's something to look forward to. Again, it's not just like a random video has just come out.
Yeah.
You kind of waiting for it a week before. I think we it's how people work in it. We're all human. You look forward to things, and I just think if people know what's coming, I think it will. Obviously, I mean, I'm doing it as well for exposure on my point of view, and to get the channel bigger as well. So, I'm just going to see how it goes really next couple of months and see if it is working. But
Well, good luck with
it's
that.
no skin off my nose really, because I'm going to be putting these videos out anyway. Like I say, I'll just release them as the time comes round. But then I throw in a few reviews here and there, shorter ones in between as well, just as bonus videos.
I think I found it quite difficult to plan too far ahead because I think you have the same problem as well, Sean. Either I'm not available, we'll organise something, and somebody will promise to do something and they don't on the night, and you end up not recording the episode that you thought you were going to record. And I always try and release, same at the end of each podcast that my next guest will be.
Yeah.
But it's happened a couple of times where that just hasn't happened.
Well, I guess in your two cases, you're reliant on somebody else, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You that other person has got to be in the room with you at the time, virtually. Whereas I can just Saturday afternoon, I've got nothing on. I'll just record a battle report that'll sit on the waiting list for the next 2 months. You know what I mean? And it's a different beast, isn't it? Really, the way that you're dealing with things.
Yeah, I'm not overly keen. Although I've done a couple of like solo podcasts, only like half an hour. It's not something I'm particularly keen on. I don't know about you, Sean. Are you happy just chatting away?
Not really, mate. No, it's yeah, no. The podcast is about the guests, not about me. And I really, I haven't really got a lot to say, to be honest, most of the time. I'm all right asking the questions, but answering them is always fun.
Yeah, but you both say that, and the thing is, it's slightly different. But I've noticed my hobby reports, my weekly Sunday hobby reports, have been by far the biggest success on the channel, apart from some of the military history videos. They've got the longest retention. If you look at the statistics, so people are watching them for longer than everything else, and they get the most views. And all it is just me sitting for 10, 15 minutes talking about what I've done in the week. And that in itself is a podcast. All I'm doing is I'm just showing the stuff. If you guys are just describing what you've done, it's a similar way of doing it. And I think, and people are interested. They're interested in you as presenters. They're interested in you as podcasters. They're interested in you as wargamers. We all are. And I see today that Big Lee has tried it out with his new direction on his channel as well. And because I was talking to him at Joy 6 about it, and I think it is something that people are just very interested in, a hobby update, just to know what you've been doing for the week. There's a little bit of inspiration for people. You know what I mean? As much as anything. I don't want to sound like an idiot when I'm saying inspiration, but I mean,
I know what you mean.
When you hear somebody else going, and this is something I noticed as well. When I've ever posted things like work in progress pictures of things like on Reddit and stuff, it'll get a huge amount of likes and upticks or whatever. And then when you put the end product on, it gets about half the amount. And I've been trying to work it out, and I think it's something psychological, and it's something about people seeing somebody's journey and enjoying the journey more than the arrival. because feels more like people are then they're not competing against you. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they've finished something, I've got to finish something. Whereas if with the hobby updates, I'm just talking about the stuff I'm doing, and it feels like then people are coming along with me as well. It's like, oh, he's working on that, so I'm working on this, and I think that's something that could translate quite easily into a podcast world. And that's my TED talk.
Yeah, well, I do the monthly updates on the YouTube, and they go down wonders.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think a weekly would be too close together for me because I might do nothing.
Well, it could be every fortnight. Maybe you can even just talk about stuff that you've seen in a hobby, or even what other people have been doing.
That'll get me into trouble.
As we will see later with these questions.
Yeah. It's interesting, Alec. It's interesting, Alex, you say that, because I've talked. I've put the question out to people who listen to God's Own Scale and say, I'm not sure what value the bit of hobby news I do and then my hobby update, whether that's interesting at all or whether I'm just wasting my time. But pretty much overwhelmingly, people say they want that staying in, very much for the reasons that you say there, that it can be inspiration in however big or small a way, or somebody. We all find interest in other people's hobby, don't we?
Exactly. I mean, we're doing a hobby that we enjoy, so you like to see other people doing that hobby that they enjoy as well.
Yeah, and you're sharing
and
it,
seeing how they do it.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Very good. Very good. Right then,
to be serious for a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have not just changed channels. This is the same podcast that was talking about flies and nappies in Binyards and
sound the lunacy alarm.
It's off.
Let's get some madness. Let's get some madness going.
So what we'll do is we'll take a short break. And we'll come back in a minute and we shall go through other people's Room 101 entries and see whether my guests, who were the first people to put things in Room 101, we'll see what they think of everyone else's. So we'll be back in a second.
The screen.
I did.
All right. Didn't respond to him, did you?
I can't fucking type and talk at the same time, and I was having a.
But you could talk because I said we can hear you.
I was having a computer issue.
I'm a bit disappointed. Can you see my name?
It was coming up as Sean Twatface.
There you go. That's what I wanted it to come up as.
Anyway,
it's the worst thing I could come up with on the spur of the moment. Oh, what's that? That sounds a bit Mexican.
I was going to say it's that Mexican
it's
stuff.
like one of those trumpets.
That is Mexican Party, Mexican traditional music, 27.
Brilliant.
It's like all you could ever. What's that? What were them things? All you
now
ever
that's
want
what I call music.
Now that's what I call.
all you could ever want. All you could ever want. 38.
Mexican special.
Max Bygraves.
Ay
caramba.
Right, so we said what we do is we talk about the other Room 101 entrants and what they've come up with. So back to your episodes. Sean, you chucked in competition games. Are you still happy with that?
Very, very happy with competition games. I think they are what's that word? There's a big word, isn't there, where they're like really bad.
Antithesis.
Antithesis.
Yeah, there you go. Hobby. Thank you. Yeah, they should be banned. It's the root of all evil.
You had a bit of pushback, didn't you, from Mad Axeman? What's his name?
Tim Porter.
Yeah, because he's big.
I challenged Tim. He's massive. He travels all over the world. I don't know how he gets the time to work. He's always in Rome or Munich or Rio de Janeiro playing Art de la Guerre or something. So, but no, listen, each to their own. It's just not for me.
Yeah,
Points
travelling around the
lists.
world, travelling around the world. Might be carrying something on them bases. You never know. You never know.
I do consider him the international man of mystery of wargaming. The
Yeah,
amount of European and world travel he does just to play with his Numibians.
Rome to Miami, Miami to Bogota, Rome.
That's right. Yeah, so anybody who might be in law enforcement could be interested in such travel plans. But
yeah. Well, I wouldn't be.
Take a better policeman than me to work it out.
So competition games is and to be fair, nobody's come anywhere close to arguing that it shouldn't stay in there. So we can keep that box well and truly locked, along with Hannibal Lecter in the corner. They can share a bottle of Chianti together. So, Alex, you went with maxing out point lists. Are you still happy with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
Points are pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I throw a challenge in though to Alex and his dislike of points lists?
I had caveats, if you remember.
Right. And was Chain of Command one of those caveats?
It certainly was. No, what I said was I don't like people who min-max point systems.
You did.
Yeah.
And also, I think the Chain of Command point system isn't particularly balanced, if you look at it, because it's more of a support option than a point system. You wouldn't be able to play a tournament game with it, put it that way, because I don't think Rich sat down and worked out the points value of a King Tiger versus a Churchill, for example.
No.
I think they're pretty rough and ready. How he felt for the size of the game that you're playing, whereas like in Bolt Action, I've looked at the point system in that, and it is so bloody complicated. You need a maths degree to work it out, and that is for tournament gaming because everything is on a sliding rule, whereas in Chain of Command it just isn't. So yes, I don't mind points. I don't mind points in that they could create you a nice balanced game. I don't like points where somebody will squeeze out the best army they can just to win a game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, acceptable.
Yes.
I'm just glad that now you've got the cream, your caveats have cleared up.
They're doing well.
Very rare tropical disease. Very rare tropical disease. I got it in Bogota and Rome.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what your viewing figures are in Bogota.
My international travels.
I don't know if we talked about this last time, but do you remember? It would have been in the 80s. I think it was some club from Jersey came over to Salute with a massive castle for a display game, and they got stopped in customs, and customs were drilling into the boards, and of course all the white powder's coming out. Anyway, a few.
That would have been a creative way of smuggling in a few kilo of cocaine.
Yeah, it would have been, and of course they'd be all walking around the table like John Wayne afterwards.
That's right. Yes.
Interesting. Yes, let's just check.
Speaking of which, have you seen that new set of Vietnam rules that have come out called Bohica?
Bohica, yes.
Bohica, yeah.
By Empress Miniatures.
Yeah.
I was quite interested to hear what Bohica meant, which was bend over,
bend
here
over
it comes again.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. Why your story reminded me of that, I don't know, Ken, but
No.
I'll take the rubber gloves off now.
There was another one as well from Vietnam about being mushrooms or something kept in the dark and fed on bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're seeing. I saw Sean just had a special guest there with him. That the listeners
Yeah,
won't be able to see. She's
so
very
our
hairy.
little puppy, she's just pestering me at the moment. I'm home alone, so I'm just hoping she hasn't left me a little friend outside the office.
Well, just for the listeners, in case they notice and they hear dogs in the background, I'm upstairs in the loft, and it's like that box on the River Kwai, bridge on the River Kwai here. So I've got all the windows open so you can hear the neighbour's dog, and when my dog goes out, he's very loud and he barks a lot. But there we go.
At least about 1 billion degrees in there.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll be sending for drinks. So text downstairs. Bring us a drink. So, after you two guys opened up the vault at Room 101, I don't think there'll be too many disagreements with this one. We had Jason Weiser on from Miniature Wargame Magazine over in the States, and he stuck rules lawyers in there.
Yeah,
and I think we're all.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think anybody could stand up and defend. I mean, that is defending the indefensible, isn't it? A rules lawyer,
unless it's in the rules.
Unless it's in the rules. Yeah. Is it rules as written or rules as intended? That's always a very good, interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, the gloves are out.
I'm on several Facebook groups where, for example, Kings of War for Fantasy. There's forever posts on the Facebook group there where they're talking about, is this a legal charge or can this spell be cast? And these threads just go on and on and on and on and gradually get more vitriolic and people lose temper with each other, and I have to mute the conversations.
What I sometimes like in it's not, I don't see it so much in wargaming, but I see it a lot because I'd like Arkham Horror, the living card game, and there's a lot of little rules in that because each card has its own rules, so that's how the game is based. But you'll get somebody asking a question about how does X work on Y card. It's very specific, and you'll get a lot of people answering it, and you'll always get somebody who'll say, "Don't forget to do Z as well." And A and B, and it's like they're not asking about that bit. Just stop showing off that you know the rules. They're asking about X and Y, and that's it, nothing else. Just shut up. That really winds me up. I have to mute those threads sometimes because obviously sometimes people are asking questions that you want to know the answer to, so you're scrolling through them and you see that kind of rubbish. But you don't see it so much in wargaming. But there are people that are out there like that, and rules lawyers.
But I think there's a big difference between UK rules, and I'm thinking about the Lardies and stuff. You're not getting a 300-page rule book from those guys. You're getting a fantastic set of rules, which can be open to interpretation in various areas. Whereas you look back at some of the particularly older American sets like Empire and Command Decision, that sort of thing. Jesus Christ, it's so hard to read through because they cover every single individual circumstance that could happen.
It's the same with Thingy, wasn't it? DBA. I don't know if you've read that. I mean, it's pretty much unreadable because it was a tournament game. There's so many caveats as to what you can't do to stop people doing it in tournaments. And interpreting the rules in their own way. It's like saying you do this except in this low situation. It just goes on for one rule. It's like just roll a d6 and get a 6. You mentioned
didn't somebody say it was a new language and they called it Barkerese?
Yes, it's
for Phil Barker, Barkerese.
Lurking about somewhere on the internet is a rewritten version of DBA that you can actually read.
Oh,
I can't remember what it is. I think it's called DBA for Dummies or something. It's just the rules, but actually written properly. But yeah, it's funny how you mentioned the Lardies, and I mean their tagline is "Play the period, not the rules." And these are people that write rules. So if they're saying it, it's like just keep the game going, play the game, enjoy the game. It's a journey, not the arrival.
Yeah. I remember people used to play DBA quite a lot at our club, and I just remember it being on like the smallest table. And in fact, the smallest table we had in the club was too big. So they had like a tiny little bathroom tile.
It's 2 by 2 foot by 2 foot, isn't it? I think in its entirety, the battlefield, and it can be a fun game, and it's a nice it's a nice introduction because you only need 50 or so figures for it. You don't need a huge army, but it's the tournament aspect of it that always ruined it for me, and those rules lawyers that ruined the game because they had all the things that they were doing had to be written out of it, which made the rules
in fairness,
unreadable.
in fairness to DBA though, it was. I think I was there when, as I'm sure both of you were, when it first released, and there was a real energy around that rule set. I think every issue of Wargames Illustrated for months after had a variant, so you could play it with Napoleonics, or you could play it with World War II or whatever. And it sort of re-energized, and the mechanisms within it were really groundbreaking, coming from the old 7th edition. 6th edition, 7th edition WRG Ancients that then morphed into DBM obviously afterwards. This idea of elements as opposed to counting every single figure. One figure represents 33 men or whatever.
I agree. And I think that, rolling the pips, the dice, wasn't it? That was the other thing as well to activate and stuff. That was something brand new. And it's got its place. Of course it has. It's part of wargaming history. It's just unreadable.
And there's a really good YouTube channel from an American guy called, I think his name's something like Tony Aguilar, something like that.
Oh yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, he's fanatical about DBA. He does live painting sessions almost every day of the week, where he's painting up a new DBA army, and he'll have these mega YouTube videos that last for 7 hours, where him and his mate will play through an entire campaign. Like a Punic Wars campaign, play 6 or 7 battles over the course of this video, and it's just great to. I really like it, actually.
Sean, I think your mic's catching on your stubble.
Or is it on the dog?
No, the dog's at my feet.
Sorry, go
on, Ken. You carry on. I was just going to wax lyrical about DBA again. I can't be bothered, to be honest.
No, it's shit.
Heathens.
Yeah.
Heathens.
Yeah. Even big DBA is like a quarter of our table. No, anyway. So next came the lovely Kurt Campbell from Canada, from Analog Hobbies Paint Challenge fame, and his was quite an interesting one, and that was Disinterested Wargamers. So you've spent all the time and trouble setting up a game, and then somebody... in fact, I think you had this, Sean, not that long ago. You spend a load of time setting a game up, and then somebody just turns up and, I don't like this. I don't like it.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Well, I didn't find it interesting at the time. I found it quite annoying.
Frustrating.
But reflecting on it afterwards... so I'd spent a few weeks pulling together a large game for me. It was still on a 6x4, Ken, but it was the entire battle
DBA.
of second Manassas, and involved, or it was representing 150,000 men on the table. There was 6 players, and we were going to be playing it for 2 weeks at 2 club nights consecutively. And the first night didn't go very well for the Confederates. Second Manassas, for those that don't know much about the American Civil War, is one of the highlights of the Confederate war. Really, you got you got the Great Triumvirate.
Wait, hold up. Roll back, Poindexter. There was an American Civil War. And when did that happen?
Look up Wikipedia.
Okay.
I'll tell you all you need to know.
Were the Mexicans in it?
There were, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Pancho Villa.
at the Alamo.
And Emilio Rodriguez, who plays centre forward. So, second Manassas, you got the three probably best generals that the Confederacy had. You got Robert E. Lee, James Longstreet, and Thomas Stonewall Jackson, commanding the Confederate Army, and who were up against one of the most incompetent Union generals of the war, John Pope. So the Confederate players, I think, thought they were in for a walk in the park, because the ultra freedom rules cater for the quality of the generals. So Lee, Longstreet, and Jackson have characteristics that are superior to that of the Union generals. But it didn't go how the scenario is written. It sort of balances these things out, and the first night didn't go very well for the Confederacy. And there's chuntering. I don't know if either of you have umpired games before, where things aren't going well for one side, and you start to hear one or two little comments like, "This is silly, and this is impossible, and we could never achieve the victory conditions, and these rules are rubbish, and they should do this or that." And then this chuntering got sort of more and more insistent as the night went on, to the point where the night ended in almost silence, where nobody wanted to say anything for fear of an argument breaking out, and we just drifted away. But I was quite upset by it, I have to say, because I'd spent all that day setting the battlefield up, sorting out the figures. I had to put labels on every single base. I put a lot of effort into it, and then it felt like it was for nothing at the end of it. So it wasn't quite disinterested, although I suspect towards the end of the night they were turning into disinterested players. But wargaming for me there's that social contract aspect, where I've got to ensure you're enjoying the game as much as you've got to ensure I'm enjoying the game just as much. Now, that doesn't mean I can't ground you into the dirt and try and beat you the best way I can, because you want to win. Of course you do. But when people are grumbling about the game and not really taking into consideration the effort that it takes to put on a big game, and Ken, you'll probably know this far better than me because of the size of the games that you put on. If you've put on a 12x6 table and you put, I don't know, 50 units aside on and thousands of figures, and you've labelled everything up and made sure everything is spot on, ready for the dice to start rolling, and halfway through somebody's being grumpy because things aren't going their way, it ground my gears, I tell you. It did trigger me a little bit.
Yeah, thankfully I've never had it, but I can imagine it is, you like you say, you put in a lot of effort, and I've umpired several games at the club, and I've umpired them with my friends and things, and you try your best, don't you, to ensure everybody's having fun, even if somebody might be getting curb stomped. You kind of swing it a little bit towards there to balance towards it. But yeah, I think if the players are getting more and more disinterested, then it's just going to ruin it for the players that they're playing against, because it's like, they think, what's the point, playing against somebody who's not into it, you know what I mean? And it is, I think, it's probably just bad form. Like you say, it's a social contract, I think, and I think that's a good way of describing it. When you're playing it, be a good opponent as well as, a good player.
Yeah, I think the amount of time that goes into doing big games is quite time consuming. I can spend sometimes months getting ready for, if we're having a massive game down at the club on 30 odd foot table or whatever, I can take ages and ages. In fact, there's one game that I've been nearly a year in the planning that we haven't played yet. And for somebody to start, oh, this isn't right. You need that. You need this. Oh, we should have done that. And you just feel like saying, "Oh, fucking you do it." But I mean, we don't have that problem too much here, because it's the same people who game regularly. So if anyone's grumpy, we just tell them to shut up and get on with it. And in the circumstances here, that we'll be gaming again in a couple of weeks' time, and the roles can be reversed. So we're not picking on anyone Honest.
I guess that's the difference with having a club or a group of friends, isn't it? If you've got a small group of friends like I think you do, Ken, you know everybody, and you are friends because you all, you all probably have the same mindset. Whereas in a club, there's people are going with different mindsets, and they're not all the same. And you don't always have to claim everybody in the club is your friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's always going to be people that you prefer to play against in a club than there is that you don't want to play against. And for that reason, I think, and so yes, it's a bit more difficult, like Sean, in your situation where you're putting on as a club where there's a lot more unknowns in it.
I'll add the caveat that it's all resolved itself, actually, and the guy in question had just had a bad week at work and just wasn't feeling it. He apologised to me, and the second week was actually great. He was well into the spirit of it. So you have to be aware, I suppose, that there are external factors that can affect people's enjoyment sometimes.
That is also true,
let the outside world creep in. But just in that moment, it felt like, I wish I hadn't bothered. Why have I spent all these months painting these figures and doing this research and making the scenery and all the other bits and pieces that go together to putting on a game like that? That was virtually all of my American Civil War 6mm collection, which was thousands of figures. And I put a lot of effort into it, but all was well that ended well. But at that moment, that sort of, it was quite crushing for me, to be honest, and made me think, well, I'm not sure I want to do this in the near future. It's put me off for a little bit.
When you said you'd resolved it, I thought it'd been pistols in the local car park on Sunday morning at dawn.
It'd be 2x4s, not pistols.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What would be the wargaming method of dueling?
In the Games Workshop side of things, I don't know if you remember back in the day, they used to have red whippy sticks. That they used. Every box set had these red sticks to use for measurement. Nobody ever used them to measure. It was always to have a duel and whipping each other on the arms with them. So I guess that would be the closest.
Yeah. I suppose you could throw handfuls of round dice at each other.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I've just thought of one, and if Silent Witness steal this for a plot line, there's going to be trouble. I reckon a catapult with a D4.
Oh, my God, that'll hurt.
Oh, that's going to sting.
Like caltrops, aren't they, D4s? I mean, if you just leave one on the floor and tread on it, you're crippled for weeks.
Yes, I can just see now, Silent Witness, the mystery of the dice.
I think you've got a future in crime writing there, Ken.
No, there's that word crime in it. I don't know anything about crime. Right. So that's disinterested world gamers. Everyone's happy with that, and they will be with the next one as well. We're on to the PCP episode with Dom and Ken, and Dom put rivet counters in.
There's no argument, is there?
No argument. Even though I am one, yes, because I do it for me. I don't, incredibly rarely point it out to somebody else. But yeah, I mean, I like to do my research, and I like to get really minute research done as much as possible because I'm interested in history. Yeah. But if somebody wants to paint their Shermans pink, then let them do it. Doesn't matter.
Right, okay. Well, this was a question I was going to throw at you then, Alex, because you're sort of a World War II subject matter expert with the amount of World War II you do. If somebody was playing with early war uniformed Germans in a Normandy game, would you have a problem with that, or would you? And they genuinely didn't know that there was an issue around the difference in uniforms.
No, because there's photographs of German soldiers in Normandy in early uniforms.
Okay.
There you go. That's
the best example I could come up with.
Somebody asked about it on Twitter a while back. They said, can I use jackbooted Germans in Normandy? I just did a quick search online for Germans POWs. They're all wearing jackboots in Normandy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They just
that was perhaps a bad example then. All right. Using SS camo smocks in 1939.
If I was playing against someone with them on, I don't know. I'll probably point it out, but it wouldn't upset me too much. I wouldn't do it personally, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably say like, oh, those camo smocks are a bit early for the game that we're supposed to be playing. But at the end of the day, we're still just moving toy soldiers about, aren't we?
Yeah.
If it's all they've got and what they want.
Yeah, I've had a few bites recently with various people, and as a result of it, I've come up with a new phrase because I can't remember what they were going on about now. But instead of saying that this isn't my first rodeo, because we don't have many rodeos in Pudsey, I've put it's not my first sheepdog trial, and I thought that was pretty good.
You need that on a T-shirt, mate.
Yeah, I like it.
It's
That's not my first sheepdog trial. That wasn't ever something to do with Black Undercoat, was it?
No, that was something else. But yeah, yeah, somebody was telling me I should try it. No, they were telling me to try something else, weren't they?
Yeah.
And one of the guys from the Canadian Wargames podcast, I saw him put a tweet up a couple of days ago, and he just said, "I'm not bothering with any of the modern shite. I'm just going to paint it like I have done for 40 years." And that way works, and that's very much how I am. Because the same guy who was going, you should try different coloured primers, make your figures look brighter, came on today when I put up my new command bases and gone, oh, they're really nice, got bright uniforms.
It's almost like you know what you're doing. Almost.
Yeah, it's not my first sheepdog trial.
I'm going to get a T-shirt with that on.
You'll all be saying that.
We will.
So yeah, we're all happy with that. Ken then put brother Ken from PCP then put points battles in, which I think we've already covered. And then Jerry Elliott from the Wargames Holiday Centre came up with an interesting one. And that was other people wanting to use your dice. He gets really upset.
I take a massive bag of dice down to the club because I never know if anyone else has got some. I'm provided them, let them have them. They're just dice.
Tape measures, anything.
Yeah.
Measuring widgets. That's not an easy word to say. Measuring widgets.
Not with the amount.
Have you got any of those, Ken?
Widgets? What?
Measuring widgets.
In the bottom of me, Timothy Taylor's landlord, them widgets that keep your beer creamy.
Them ones, yeah.
I've got one of these disto things. It like fires a laser out, and then it puts a random number on the screen, which is fuck all to do with the distance.
Love it.
Yeah. So Asda $7.99, absolutely shit. It was
I've got no problem sharing dice, tape measures, whatever. I honestly don't mind. I can't put that in 101.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, for public health, while we've got COVID, everybody make sure that you clean your dice, and each one of your dice is in an individual condom-shaped plastic outline before you pass it to somebody else. Because you never know. You never know what could be passed on through used dice.
I've just thought on that very point. Do you remember me talking about a dice within a dice?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Because you don't actually touch the dice inside the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would you roll it without touching the dice on the outside?
Don't know.
Fuck,
You're some kind of widget. Dice rolling widget.
A widget, yeah.
Yeah, a widget.
But you don't actually touch, you only count the one inside.
Right. But you don't touch the one on the outside.
Listen, I'm just the ideas man. You'd have to come up with the fine details.
It's like an episode of Miss Marple, isn't it? The dice within the dice. Oh dear. Where's Shoestring when you need him? Right.
Trevor Eve. Now that was
Trevor
a good
Eve
show, wasn't it?
That awesome shoestring was.
Loved it.
Mind you, as we know from from the analytics, there's nobody under 35 watching this, so
Nobody's going to have a clue who that is.
Right. Anyway, then it was an interesting one from Simon Miller, and this is something I'd never considered, and now every bloody picture I look at has it. Doorstep bases.
What do you mean?
Bin them. I hate them.
Really thick, so you have each figure based individually, and then they slot in to like a company. And some of them you can get, they're quite thin and chamfered down.
A movement base.
Yeah, like a Sabo base.
Yeah. And some of them are nice, and they're chamfered down to the engineering word there, down to the table, and they look quite nice. Whereas they're like half the size of the figure.
You seem to be very popular in the States. They did. I don't know if either of you ever read their wargame magazine called M1. I think it was
M1, yeah.
MWAN. Any pictures of any figures in there? These are on Sabo bases, but they'd be half an inch thick. The bases were. And he's saying, "What on earth is going on?"
I must be missing something. I can't think of any at all in my head. Have you ever seen them?
They're really ugly. Really ugly.
You'll see them everywhere after this now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I hadn't really noticed them until Simon mentioned them.
Yeah,
and then it was like, what the?
He does some lovely bases, doesn't he, with those wiggly edges?
Oh, yeah. He loves a chamfered base, does our Simon? Yes. He likes it to blend in with the table. It's like a piece of art.
Probably my favourite game at Partisan was the Simon Miller's game.
What was it?
Cavalry
was it
English Civil War game. Roundway Down, was it, or something like that?
Yes, it was.
Did you look under the table?
Yeah, I saw the pictures afterwards.
I'm unfortunately blessed with a degree in engineering. I was staying away from it.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of health and safety inductions on sites, and it was filling me full of dread.
Yeah, it was one of those that needed a hard hat, steel toe cap boots, and a yellow jacket. Bless him. Anyway, so next up was Ian McDonald, Flags of War, great episode with Ian, and Hex terrain tiles.
Bin them.
No,
Alex.
Yeah, I thought the same until I saw Dan Hodgkinson's game of Joy of Six, and because it was huge, it merged in, and you didn't notice there were hexes on a very small table. Yes, they look rubbish. On a huge table, they look fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn with them because they can look really good, but they look really good in the fact that they look good, but they don't look like a real terrain table, if you like.
Yeah.
They look like a really nice game. Like, remember that, like, what was it, Panzer General or something you used to have on the computer? It was a hex-based World War II game. It looks like that rather than a figure game.
Yes, it does, and I know they've hex games are fine because it's just you're just moving from point to point, aren't you? With them, it's only like measuring 6 inch. At least you know where you are within the hex. And as I say, you could do quite a lot with them and make them look quite nice. And just a lot of people don't.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the because who is it that sell them?
Callistra.
Callistra, isn't it? They sell them pre-painted, don't they? I think
you can get them pre-painted,
pre-flocked,
pre-flocked, and a lot of people don't seem to do much with them. But I reckon you could probably do quite a lot with them and disguise the hexes so that you can still see them and play on them as hexes, but make them interesting and look good. And as I say, I was quite surprised by Dan's game the other week.
I've got two issues
with
them.
That look good.
Yes, it will. And to be honest, Dan has done a lot of work with the Callistra over the years, and he's put some magnificent tables on. My two issues are, if you're playing a game which is based on hexes and you're using those for movement, you can't actually move in a straight line if you're going across one axis. You've always got to jump from one
Yes.
side to the next.
That's why you need grids.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're using the Callistra but not using a hex-based movement system,
Thank
why
you, Mrs.
using
Riley.
hexes? Thank you, Mrs. Riley.
Thank you very
Sean
much.
says thank you, and Alex says thank you.
Because in today's day and age, where you've got cloths and mats, and back in the day, it used to be TSS tiles, didn't it? That was the height of sophistication. Back in the day, you'd see people walking around Wargame shows with about 6 tiles under their arm all day when TSS used to do shows. And I will admit, it looks nice when you see a whole setup of the Callistra terrain, but it doesn't look very realistic to me. So if you're using it as a hex-based system, fair enough. But the fact you can't move in a straight line going across one axis, and they're just too obtrusive for me, to be honest. I can't unsee the hex when it's on the table. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I'm sure that counselling is available.
There'll be a number at the end of the show for anybody else who can't unsee hexes.
Hey, that's a good
trauma.
idea. Yeah. Wargaming trauma counsellors. That's what we're here for.
We're like agony aunts, aren't we?
Yeah, Well, the next bit is when we do the questions.
Oh, yeah, I am in agony already. So
the next one. The next one up was my mate and World War I author Stephen Barker, and he caused some controversy on the Twitters with primary school Blue Rivers.
What, going in?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. They look awful.
Yeah, they do.
It's not how rivers look.
Loads of people got really stressy about it on Tinterwebnet.
It's just so easy to avoid these days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is.
In the bin.
You don't
Done.
need it.
Get them on.
Yeah. And I appreciate it's to do with the reflection of the sky, but me and you, Alex, we've been in Yorkshire for years.
Never seen the sun, ever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all our rivers are black, aren't they? Literally. You just can't see a thing. It's just like...
The canals around Stoke-on-Trent aren't much better, I have to say.
Yeah, they save the clear water for them people down south, don't they?
They do. They ship it away from us. They scoop it off.
Yeah, leveling up, they call it. They still haven't got clear water up there yet.
No.
There's only one thing worse, and that's blue felt for rivers.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Blue felt. Just no. Sorry. Call me a snob.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next one is the last episode, and that was PCP Martin, Seventh Son, and this is a good one, painting gadgets. Straight in.
Well, that was obvious from you. I'd say yes, pretty much. I'd say yes. I think. Well, it depends on the gadget, but yes, pretty much.
I didn't even open the door to room 101 for this. Slammed it straight into it. Stop fucking about and paint it.
I mean, things like those Games Workshop, all sorts, anything like those holders that Games Workshop sell for about £5. So I just stick it on the end of an empty paint bottle. That's what I do.
Did you see? Did you see the Wargame? Did you see the painting Portaloo?
Oh, that thing that they came out with the water flusher for your brush.
Yeah.
What?
Did you not see it, Sean?
I'm not seeing this now.
It's hard to describe.
You'll not unsee
a painting Portaloo paints all sorts of pictures in my head.
So basically, you've got this like cylinder containing like a green fluid, and then you've got like a little trough coming down from the cylinder into a little hole, a little bowl, and when you want to clean your paintbrush, you don't clean it in the water. You press a button, and a little bit of this green liquid comes down the trough and into your bowl, and you clean your brush in that, and then you get rid of that, and then it replenishes itself.
Somebody's having you away there. Somebody's having you away.
Alex, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Honestly, it's true. Look it up.
Jeez.
Look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't change my paint water until the paintbrushes are standing up in it. That is completely useless to me. That, or until the cat's drunk it. It's something like. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. Like I just cannot see any point in it whatsoever.
Yeah. You see, I'll never find it again because I've now got it in my head that it's the Wargames Portaloo. And if I put that into Google, it's not going to bring it up. So if somebody's still listed at this point, then put a link to it in wherever you hear it, and then we can
tag
share
Sean
it with Sean,
so he can see it.
So he's seen it. But it was on Twitter. It was on Twitter.
He's searching
I've seen
for it now, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know whether fucking stupid brush
I wouldn't even know what to search for, to be honest.
I think it was Army Painter. Army Painter had come up with it, I think.
Right.
Army Painter brush cleaner.
Yeah, just search for that on Google.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that, to me, are completely unnecessary. But again, at the end of the day, this hobby is big enough to have all kinds of weirdos in it. And if it's what works for somebody, then let them have it, I mean, I'm kind of covered to your side, really, Ken, now with wet palettes. I liked them for a bit, and I've realised that, to be honest, it's not changed my painting at all. It's done nothing for me. I've just gone back to my plastic palette with a little blob of paint on it.
It's fantastic for if you're doing individual figures and you're doing a lot of blending of colours and stuff, which is kind of more of a Games Workshop technique, I think.
Yes, it is.
You can do more than enough with standard painting techniques without having to go into all that.
Yeah, 100%.
And there is. I'm finally going to do. I've got all the stuff now. I'm finally going to do my wet palette versus MDF video. So I look forward to that coming out soon.
Can't wait.
No MDF was hurt in the making of this video.
How many wet palettes were hurt?
Yeah, some didn't make it to the end, is what I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say for now. And then to finish off, we had Steve, and he came up with, and we're all going to agree on this, overly competitive wargamers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it goes back to it's almost the opposite of the disinterested wargamer, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the one who is overly interested in winning and nothing else, and you're just like, I don't even want to play. What's the point?
I think all three of us are very similar in that we enjoy the game, and none of us are particularly that bothered in winning. It's nice if you win,
of course it is,
but it's not the be all and end all. And some of the best games I've had, I've been on the losing side, but it's been like the last die roll, and it's all built up to this.
Yeah.
This particular point in time. I remember we had a game here where British early war, they had to capture an objective in the desert, and the Italians managed to destroy 8 of the 9 tanks, and the last tank was 1 move away from the objective, and rolled the dice, last dice of the game, and the tank broke down. So the Italians won.
See, I love stories like that. I love stories like that.
Story, then, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's all about. So that's the Room 101 entries. There'll be lots more coming up over the months and years. But it's time to move on, and we shall take a short break, and then we will come back for our Wargames problem page. Ask our Nora. Ask our Nora. And I'm not gonna press the button again because it fucked it up last time.
Yeah, that's what editing's for.
So there'll be a little bit more than a short break because I'm going to end the episode here after just coming up to an hour and a half. And don't worry if you put a question in for Ask Our Nora. The second half of this episode, which is going to now be episode 29, will be out next Friday. I'll just have a week between the episodes as I did with the PCP one with Martin and Steve. So if you put a question in, we haven't ignored you. It's going to come in the next episode. And I hope you very much enjoyed this three-way chat with me, Alex and Sean. Very much fun to do as always. I shall see you all next week. City.